VLPFM in New Orleans. We are Radio Null HIV with programming, that's right, programming dedicated to human rights and social justice, WHIVFM.org. We honor independent voices. We are not a radio station with a mission. No, we are a mission with a radio station, and that is to end all wars. Hello, everybody. Welcome to NoiseFilter, the daily hour, every other day, hour-long show with your host. My name is Dr. Mark Calendari, and sitting across the digital divide from me is my friend and yours. Say hello, Dr. Griggs.
Hello, Dr. Griggs. Yeah, there it is.
We know where we are. Everything is reversed on TV. Doc Griggs, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm inside. I'm in air conditioned. I'm good.
And you've got two pooches at your Tootsies.
Two pooches doing foot massages and are dying to get on camera, but we're not going to happen yet. Yeah.
Dr. Griggs, on Friday I had a show prepped, and about 20 minutes into the show, the mouse died on me. Everything I needed to just restart my computer, but if I restarted the computer, would have killed the stream. So I had to go, and then, and of course, as soon as I restarted the computer, the problem was gone. But so this is a little bit of that show that I had prepped there. But I know the last time we checked in with you, Doc, was about on Wednesday, and you've been having a lot of issues, and I'm sure that everybody wants to know how you're feeling and how you've been over the course of the
Yeah, I've resolved. I mean, it was a rough weekend, but it ended up, we celebrated the life of my friend. It's just exhausting. Got to do something about the crime. Interesting. I'll tell you something interesting that did happen.
Real quickly, the mayor always says the best way to stop a bullet is a job. So
So one of the stories that ran, not my story this morning, if you can remember a few weeks ago, when I was on a Sunday, drunk driver crashed through my fence, destroyed the backyard, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, how about last night at 11:30, same thing happened over at the TV station. And
whoa, what happened?
This guy, they messed up and lost control on Norman C. Francis over the hill, and then flipped over, ended up upside down through the fence in the front of the TV station.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Wow. Anybody hurt, or what's the?
We don't know. As far as we know, no one passed away, but I think they were both taken to the hospital.
Oh wow! So it was two people in one car.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Goodness. That was exactly.
Folks, we need to slow down. It's not that, we don't. It's the Roaring 20s. I know some of the restrictions are lifted, but just slow down. Right. We're not out of this, and even then we do get all out of this, slow down.
It's not the Soaring 20s, right?
Right. No. Right.
Nice. Wow. So and did you find out about this when you went to the radio? When you went to this?
Found out about it when I woke up at 4 this morning. I saw it on the news. I'm like, whoa! And then when I got there, it was mangled. It was all wrecked up. Like,
oh my goodness! And no one from the TV station was hurt.
No one was hurt. No, it was there's like a courtyard in front, so it went through the fence and then rolled into the grass, and then there's like a step that's up, and it hit the step and stopped. Just slow down and don't drink so much.
Yeah, it's a lot of drinking. It is a lot of the roaring, soaring 20s.
We've been saying it how long? We're following the exact same pattern as 100 years ago with the exact same issues, just more technology and faster. Right,
absolutely. And people wouldn't mask 100 years ago, and then they fussed about that, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. They said it was a hoax.
Right. People wouldn't listen. It was like, what we need to do? We need to write a letter to doctors 100 years in the future, just like
this is what to expect. And send them back to this podcast. So So what do you call it? Time capsule? We used to do those in grade school. Remember?
Time capsule, right? Dude, no. Like 100 years from now, all they're gonna do is they're gonna just take this podcast, insert it into the brain, and just extract the elements of it.
Right.
No,
Right.
there's
Right.
no need to listen to the whole thing. No need to read a letter. A letter. They'll be like, letter. These guys are
What is
so
that?
old school, you know.
Who does that? People read anymore?
It's true. Did you ever see did you ever watch any of the Black Mirrors?
Yes. Oh man, that was trippy. Good, but it was trippy.
Yeah, there was a couple of them where they kind of accessed their they had these hard drives and
in their heads.
Yeah, the one that I really liked a lot was the one that took place in Iceland. You remember that one where they could read your memories and they were able to go to the blind baby and read the. It was like a successful architect.
Yeah.
Who started there was a bicyclist who they killed accidentally because they were effed up coming home from a rave, but then all of a sudden they started the questions started to emerge 10 years later, and they moved on with their lives.
Yeah.
The guy that she was with wanted to tell the cop. I don't know. Anyway, don't worry about it. They were great. They were great glimpses into the future. I thought they were great. They're hard to watch, but they're really.
They were hard to watch. They were hard to watch. But they were good.
Did you? There was a really good one about the museum. This kind of roadside attraction museum.
Oh yeah.
The woman, it was her father and the way she just exacted revenge on the owner.
I'm telling you, man, it's they were painful to watch at times, but you couldn't stop. It was watching train wrecks.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of things that I watched, dude, I saw two great movies this weekend, right? So I saw Jimmy Cliff and The Harder They Come, classic, but it was still nice to watch it again. And it was just really cool to see old Jamaica and stuff like that. It was great. But but we saw Assassins, dude. That's what you need to watch is Assassins.
Assassins?
It's a documentary, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's about those two women that went in the middle of the airport in Malaysia in Kuala Lumpur and killed Kim Jong-un's brother.
Yep.
Right, the two assassin women.
Yep.
Right. What's your take about that? Did you ever follow the story?
I did not, dude. I did not follow it. I remember that story, but I didn't follow it.
And what did you think of the women? What was your general? I'll tell you what I thought. I thought that they were highly trained. In my mind's eye, they were wearing black lycra. They were coming in on cartwheels. Oh,
no. When that whole thing happened, I started thinking the Catherine Zeta-Jones with the coming down, Tom Cruise.
Okay, right. That's right. Okay.
Stars, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's what I thought too. No. Two very vulnerable women, girls in their early 20s. One was an immigrant from a very rural village in Indonesia, and the other one rural village in Vietnam, and went to college in Hanoi and never really kind of made it. So they went to Malaysia, which is where immigrants go to find jobs and to have success or whatever. And then they got sucked into the sex trade, and then they got sucked into So it was a long-standing scam. And then they just got sucked into it, and they were put on trial. And if they were found guilty for doing it, because they did it, because there was video that they did it, it's a mandatory hanging, a death sentence by hanging, in which you have to hold a 20-pound sandbag as you're being hung. So this way, when they release the floor, boom, it's instant. So I'm not going to tell you what happened. You have to watch it.
Dude, gee, thanks for that. What?
It's called Assassins. It's awesome.
You chose to watch this.
What? No, 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 no. I'm not going to tell you that. Like,
okay, all right.
You watch it. It's got a happy ending.
All
right.
So
98% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's these attorneys. It's these attorneys that made the movie, and you could tell these are attorneys that practice law like you and I practice medicine. You'll see the same passion, the same sense of justice, the same sense of wanting to do right by people who are have been taken advantage of and been preyed upon.
Called Assassins.
Assassins, yeah. And it's mandatory viewing.
Got it. It came out in 1995? No, when is it?
No, dude. It came out like maybe a couple weeks ago.
It's 2020. Audacious murder of the brother of North Korea's supreme leader, Kim Jong-un.
There you go. And here's the thing, too. I want to go to North Korea. I can't find anybody to go to North Korea with. You want to go?
No, you still can't.
No. Well, you don't want to go to North Korea with me? Come to North Korea? Have I ever tried?
What do you want to do in North Korea? I have to ask you.
I'll tell you. You can't do anything in North Korea. You are it's a government trip, and you are taken from place to place to place. So it was like when I went to Tibet. It's like it's very, very controlled. Okay, but that being said, and I'm not talking about causing any trouble in North Korea.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not talking about no mischief, no like giggle fits, no nothing, nose to the grindstone.
I'm with that.
It's very serious. But wouldn't it be cool to go to a part of the world that nobody else that you know has ever been? And even though it would be fascinating as F, right? Fascinating AF. Even though we're only seeing everything the government wants us to see. You know, like, I don't know. So I
have no problem with those types of trips. That would be, as long as there's I don't play around in other countries, man. You don't screw around there.
No, this is no Midnight Express thing, right?
No, right.
I'm not pulling a Midnight Express, right?
No.
So but that being said, I think it would be kind of fun to go to North Korea. So that could be.
I would be down for that. I'm down for that.
All right. Before we get the show started, because we have so much content to go over, there's no way we're going to go over everything. What did you talk about on the news today?
So, what are your favorite topics?
Giggle fits.
All right.
Delta. That's all I want to talk about is Delta variant.
Talked about COVID-19 and vitamin D.
Look at this. This is the ultimate vitamin D right there.
Need I say any more? I can let you just run. We can do a whole hour letting you just rant.
Hey, do you have any access to Dennis Rodman? Can we take Dennis Rodman with us? You know, he's close.
I do know a couple guys.
Imagine, dude, would you love to go to North Korea with Dennis Rodman?
And play basketball.
Oh my gosh. Dude, that would be insane. We would have access to stuff. And Dennis Rodman by himself, I think, is such a card. But I think he's like an anti-vaxxer. I don't know for 100%, but I think that he's like, I think he didn't believe in COVID. I think he had some of that stuff going, but even still, like the fact that he could play, listen, you know me, I'm not a sports person at all, right? But the fact that some dude with like orange hair and nose rings and stuff could play basketball like in the 90s, like, and just be such an oddball and still be so badass about it. I don't know. I thought that he was totally cool.
Yeah, Dennis Rodman was unique, but he was a master of his craft, which is what, I mean, I'm a huge Dennis Rodman fan. Huge. He's dope.
Yeah, it would be fun to go. But some people just don't think you'd come. I don't know, Doc Griggs. We need to show them up.
Oh, yeah. I have no idea. As long as there's no rah-rah, I'm not going anywhere to make any trouble, but I love to explore.
All right, so you talked about vitamin D and what? And COVID?
Yeah, vitamin D and COVID.
Again? Like I thought we put that to bed.
No. It keeps popping up. There was an article that came out last week. There's an article that came out 2 months ago. Then there was one that came out last week. So they'll have one article that says vitamin D is really helpful. Then have another one that says that vitamin D doesn't work. Then have another one that says vitamin D doesn't work. And then have people that. So I just at this point we just say it's under investigation. Eat your fruits and veggies. Get your exercise. Go out in the sun. Drink your water. But most importantly, take the shot. If you want to prevent COVID, get vaccinated.
Absolutely.
Wear your mask. Don't go out in big crowds.
Shut up and take the shot.
Shut up and take the shot. Seriously? Like, really?
Elizabeth, I don't understand your question. What do you mean? Has it been figured out if it was the Delta variant in the office in Florida?
What office?
Eric, yeah, do you understand the question? I don't quite understand.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure what office she's referring to.
Yeah.
But the Delta variant is here. They're saying it doubles potentially every 10 to 14 days. I think, what was the last number? Is it 26% or 20%?
Listen, the last number I read was 10%, but I heard the former director of the FDA, Dr. Gottlieb, say something like 30 to 40%. Now, I have not checked that. That number to me seems really high, but
let's see. I'll look it up.
All right. While you do that, let me just go ahead and get us started here. Government office building in Florida, where I believe 6 people got infected, 2 died, but vaccinated. I got it. I guess you guys are way ahead of us. As I always say, you guys are the smartest audience in the world.
We do.
Government office building in Florida, where I believe 6 people got infected, 2 died, but vaccinated person did not get infected. And Elizabeth here says there was an office in Florida where everyone who wasn't vaccinated got COVID, and everyone was mid-50s, and every single one of them ended up in a hospital and several died. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to have to say that was probably COVID. I mean, probably Delta. I would be shocked if it wasn't. And just to kind of remind folks about the vaccination rates with the mRNA vaccines, what we do know is that with the mRNA vaccines, the study was actually done on Pfizer, but we can probably extend out, or what we refer to as extrapolate out to Moderna, that it had an 88% efficacy rate against the Delta virus, or variant rather. The AstraZeneca had like a 60%, and when you just got 1 dose of an mRNA vaccine or AstraZeneca vaccine, it went down to 30%. Now remember, the AstraZeneca vaccine and the Johnson & Johnson have the same mechanism of action, but what we cannot say is whether or not that mechanism, because the data wasn't done on Johnson & Johnson, we can't comment on Johnson & Johnson, but the Delta variant does not evade vaccine-induced immunity, but hear me today, quote me tomorrow. We're only just a variant or 2 away from that happening, which is the reason why Doc Griggs and I created our the Big Bad Variant and the 3 Little Griggs cartoon that we showed you guys last week, in which in that animation we describe how how variants emerge, and then of course the need for boosters. And Doc Griggs, while you report that, I'm going to put that link in the text box.
Yeah. So as of June 22nd. The number was 20%, so that was 4 days ago. So there's no telling.
Yeah, that makes a little bit more sense to me. I thought that, and it could also be that he also has inside numbers. I mean, when he said it, I was like, almost fell out of my chair. Like
I'm sure he has inside numbers though. Yeah,
and usually when you have inside numbers like that, numbers that that aren't going to track with what people know, you usually say, well, according to our data, or something along those lines. I was just kind of surprised that he kind of just came out and just said
that out there.
Yeah, and put it out there the way that he did. But anyway, neither here nor there. Yeah, I would imagine that was a Delta variant. Of course, Florida being a port or a very common city, and so we can easily see. But remember, Florida never really quite shut down, and so people are just kind of probably transmitting virus to virus. And the other main points to understand is that the that the epidemic is at levels that we saw in January and February amongst the unvaccinated. And one of the stories that we're going to run down today is this notion of two Americas, how you're going to have an America that's going to be protected and covered with vaccines, and then an America that's unprotected. So this virus is going to be forced to seek out, like a heat-seeking missile. It has to seek out those that are unvaccinated. And this virus is under tremendous pressure of natural selection. And when you're under tremendous natural selection pressure, guess what you're going to do? You're going to respond.
Natural, and now we've added artificial selection with the effectiveness of these vaccines. So
that's an interesting hair that you're splitting. That's it. Let's just talk about that really quick.
Yeah.
Because wouldn't that still be considered natural?
Well, I mean, specifically, because here's the deal. I got into this discussion over the weekend. It's like, why can't, if I've already had it, why would I need the vaccine? I'm like, so because you've had it doesn't necessarily mean that you're covered and protected from the things that are covered in the vaccine. The reason that if you've had, you want to go ahead and get the vaccine is because there are specific variants, there's specific genetic information, there's specific strains that you're protected against that we can know that you're protected against. You might have had COVID with a strand that's not even defined and not even know it. So it's the equivalent of knowing and being assured that you won't get sick or die from this strain versus just trying your luck because you had it before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Elizabeth is bringing the heat today. Yes, because I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, I was going to say this. I'm increasingly impressed also with the data about efficacy of Pfizer and Moderna. You're going to start hearing a lot about Novavax as well. I actually was interviewed today by a Vice reporter to help her understand and break down Novavax. And so you're going to start hearing a lot more about Novavax. And I've been reporting about Novavax, and I was actually telling her, Eric, that I've been like agitating you. How come we're not hearing more about Novavax?
Right.
Novavax? Where's Novavax? You know, and we're going to start hearing that the Atlantic had a big article last week that kind of caught everybody's attention. And so now Pfizer is going to do a big story as well. So Elizabeth says, I saw the WHO said vaccinated should be masked because of Delta, but the CDC has not said anything. I'm guessing that's because the efficacy of the vaccines we have versus the ones the world has. Yeah, I agree with that. I
think the CDC is waiting. I mean, this is kind of a pattern we've seen before. I think they're just waiting for the numbers to go up here. And you're going to see, I don't know, I'm not going to say, hear me today, quote me tomorrow, but I think you're going to see more and more people, these spikes, these unvaccinated people. I think the virus is going to continue to mutate. You're going to see more breakthroughs, and the Delta or the next iteration of whatever strain will be out. It just makes sense, folks. We've not asked you to stop wearing a mask yet. I mean, it's just get vaccinated, wear your mask when you can.
No, absolutely. We said it a million times. Right?
There it is. Thank you.
This is an old school reference right here, huh?
Old school, yeah, a whole year old.
What we're saying, it's a state.
Right.
This is some old school stuff.
And folks, let me just say this. I mean, I know it's none of our viewers, but don't stop washing your hands. We had a discussion at the station this morning. There are some people that just quit washing their hands because they don't have to anymore. Please keep washing your hands. That's gross.
Yeah. Everyone should have their hands washed.
Just wash your hands. There's nothing wrong with the elbow bump or the fist pound.
I do it all the time, man. I'm still elbow bumping. People get a little thrown off by it, but I'm like, no problem. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I meant to set this up. I didn't meant for.
Yeah, you didn't set that up well. That jumps right out at you. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, I know. I forget. It used to be that you had to click 2 buttons to get on, and now they eliminated that second button. So let me set this up. by saying, so let's move into some basic stories right now.
let's jump right in and take a bite.
We'll get back to COVID and Delta in a moment. I did see a couple of general medical stories, but I saw one that really kind of was really interesting because, as you know, I criticize Israel a lot. And so as you can imagine, this headline caught my eye, and it actually emerged into two stories. So this was a physician who was fired after slurs, including cannibalism against Israel. So I wanted your take on this, Dr. Riggs, and kind of what you thought. So this is a woman who was born and raised in Gaza. Okay, she's now Dr. Wisha, is a pediatric radiologist in Phoenix Children's Hospital, and she had anti-Israel comments on social media. And she posted, "We will uncover your thirst to kill our Palestinian children. We sense your fear, the fear of your collapse. A state based on atrocity, inhumanity, racism, and cannibalism never lasts long. Hey, hashtag Israel, your end is coming sooner than you think." Okay, so this was something that was on her personal social media page. This was something that, as a Palestinian, a person of Palestinian origin, this is what she wrote. You know, what is your thoughts that they would fire her for this? You know, that like she is like she's Palestinian. She's from Gaza. It's her family. It's her people that are there, that are the recipients of that. And she made those comments on her own social media feed. And I'm just asking you, do you think that it's right for her to be fired?
So I'll say that she's entitled to feel the way she feels because of everything you said, but everything that you post on social media, you're always hot mic'd. Everything is a hot mic. Anything you post is a hot mic. And there are consequences and repercussions for everything it is that you say, no matter how private it seems in your mind. If you put it out there for the world can react. I don't know what the employer-employee policy is, but you just have to realize that you're hot mic'd and be willing to deal with the potential consequences. That's just.
So what do you think about a society that would put us in a situation like that now?
But the thing is, that's another country that operates differently. I mean, differently in the sense, no, anywhere you can be, you have to be careful the way that you say things. Your passion, your brain, your passion, your mouth. There's got to be a filter if you're going to put it out there and continue to continue to be employed, for one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that if you are like, I mean, as an American, we would be able to make comments against, let's say, a country that we were at war with, you know. And I think that I think she challenges really what does free speech really mean? What does free speech in America really mean? And when you are attacking one of America's allies, I think that the rules are slightly changed. I actually feel sorry for this woman. I wish that she didn't lose her job. I think that sort of speech should not be restricted. Now, this is as opposed to the next story. Now, the next story actually is interesting for several reasons. One, it involves a young medical student where I taught at her university. I taught at her university about 2 years ago, Touro College of Osteopathic Medicine in New York City. And also I did my residency where she did her residency at Cleveland Clinic in Ohio, right? But she here posted anti-Semitic hate speech. And she referred to Jewish people as dogs, downplayed the Holocaust, and threatened to purposely give all Yahud, which is the Arabic word for Jews, the wrong meds, and that Allah will take the Jews. Okay, so this is a different story. All right, so this one I can kind of be like, all right, this is just straight out just anti-Semitism, right? I mean, as a Moroccan Jew, as an American Jew, there are things that I feel like, there are some things that I'm just like, yeah, whatever, anti-Semitism, maybe not, whatever. I think it's a word that gets used kind of loosely. What I just read just now, that was anti-Semitic. And she not only lost her job with the residency program, the Ohio State Board of Medical Examiners took away her license to practice medicine. He tried to apply to a program in Davis, and once Davis did some research into her, they noted that she lied on her application, and they fired her as well. So this is a person who is unfortunately not going to be working anytime soon. I say unfortunately because she went through the process of going to medical school and probably has a mountain of debt. But that racial animus, I think that I would imagine that somebody could possibly go to, and again, speaking as a Jew, and I would love your input on this. Should somebody lose their job for that? I mean, what she wrote was clearly.
What do you she said she was going to give meds. She specifically said she was going to give the wrong meds. Dude, come on. That whole thing. That's too much.
It's too much. You don't think that sensitivity classes, like some compassion about how this is not, anything. You think by the time you're in by the time you're in your residency, this should need to be taught this, right?
Dude, put that back up again. Put it back up again.
And again, I'm speaking as
She specifically said, "I will purposely give all of the Yahoo the wrong meds." It's done. It's over. It's a wrap.
Okay.
It's done.
All right. All right. All right. I just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
That's horrible. What?
All right. I hear you. All right. So here was an interesting story about smoking and linking it to suicidal behavior, which is really fascinating, right? Here was a study, psychiatry and clinical psychology residents have published the results of their latest research and meta-analysis on suicide. The first cause of external death in Spain. This time the study delved into the possible connection between smoking and different suicidal behaviors, ideation, planning, suicide attempts, and suicide committed. As much as 20% of the Spanish population smokes every day. 20%. Can you imagine? And considering that numerous studies suggest that smoking increases suicide risk, we believe it's essential to delve into this connection. So they did a bunch of, they looked at 2,436 scientific articles.
What country was this?
This is in Spain.
Yes, absolutely. So interestingly, Spain's one of my favorite countries, right? So I went to run with the Bulls there, done the Pamplona, San Sebastian, Valencia, Buñol, the whole nine. They smoke. I mean, I called myself in 2005, we're gonna be European. So me and my boys, we're gonna drink cafe con leche, we're gonna smoke cigarettes. Dude, when I tell you I got the worst bronchitis of my life, I didn't know how to smoke. Like I'm just gonna stand around.
What made you just want to be European one day?
Dude, because it's so cool, man. They just stand around, they drink coffee con leche, and you sit, and you drink, and you talk, and you smoke, and they offer you a cigarette, and man. And when I tell you, green, black, couldn't breathe in. Needed a breathing treatment when I got back, dude. Like, they smoked. They were smoking. That was back then. So, yes, I'm not surprised at 20. I'm not surprised at the percentage of people that smoke because I saw it.
Yeah,
who smokes at the beach? They smoke at the beach. They were smoking.
No, I think we were talking about, like, when I was a teenager, when I was touring through Europe as a teenager when I dropped out of college, right? And like I had to stay out all night. I couldn't stay in a place. And I remember it was like, I think it was a park bench. I just slept from like 4 to like 7 or something. And I got up once the sun was up and wiping the sleep out of my eyes, grabbed my backpack, and then just kind of walking around the streets. And like the bars are packed at 7 a.m. with people drinking. They drink out of these little cups. Yeah,
cafe con leche. It's cafe con leche. And I drink.
They're drinking booze. This is not like coffee. Yeah, they're drinking booze. This is the bar. This was not the coffee shop. I'll never forget it. It was like Spain was a party. It was like New Orleans, like one big.
You felt safe there too, but it was smoking, man.
Yeah, it's a lot. They do a lot there, huh?
What was the link between suicide, though? That's interesting.
Yeah, I think that smoking. I think
serotonin, dopamine.
Yeah. Here we go. So this was the final result of the study here. Right here is that they highlight the importance of including information in suicide. Tobacco is not considered an independent predisposing factor in risk assessment scales. One of the most used scales is SAD persons, toxic habits like alcoholism but not smoking. So I think essentially what they're finding out is that that there is a link and there hasn't been considered a link before in the past. I think that's essentially what they're suggesting as well. So before we move to COVID, there was a couple of other stories I wanted to quickly kind of review that I thought were super interesting. One is there was a small cluster of oseltamivir resistant influenza identified. So 4 cases of oseltamivir. That's what is that called on the market? It's Tamiflu. 4 cases of Tamiflu-resistant influenza called the A-H1N1 PDM09 infection identified amongst individuals living in a border detention center in Texas. There's 4 of them, but the issue here is that we know, especially at what we've seen with COVID, is that boy can these viruses transmit, and they can transmit that resistance. And so there was a great quote here from an infectious disease doctor from Harvard. He actually took over Dr. Rochelle Walensky's position as Dr. Daniel Curtiquez. He says, given the global economy and worldwide travel seen in typical years, these cases certainly should be viewed as a potential global issue, not just confined to the U.S. Not only is our obligation to ensure the health of the U.S. custody, it's also our best interest to prevent outbreaks within detention centers. Like that, proper infection control and quarantine procedures. As we relax restrictions surrounding COVID-19, we can expect to see increases in cases of these and other respiratory viruses. So something to consider as well. And then lastly, before we, hang on one second. Eric, will you take over for a second?
Yeah, so that brings up a great point. What concerns me now with everything being relaxed, and I don't know if y'all have been around, this past weekend, if you close your eyes, you would think it was the 4th of July weekend. There were parties and people everywhere. And I won't just say it was people that were local. We're traveling, and we're carrying these bugs from place to place. Worldwide travel, interstate travel, and worldwide travel is, it's back. And that's how we got in this conundrum to begin with. Had this thing started in Wuhan, and we didn't have world travel, we might have heard about it, but it might not have seen it here. It's the fact that people are traveling. Again, you bring our bugs with us wherever we go. Excuse me, what's that?
That's right. So moving back to COVID real quickly, just a couple things. COVID pandemic fuels a drop in U.S. life expectancy. Known this is just yet another story. Average U.S. life expectancy dropped almost 2 years, we know. So, but what I thought was really interesting about this story particularly, we know that disproportionately affects Black and Brown communities. But here was this: the root cause of the difference reductions in life expectancy was systemic racism. Finally, people are talking about this. I've never seen that before. You know, extensive research has shown that the systems of power in the U.S. structure opportunity and assign values in ways that unfairly disadvantage Black, Hispanic, Asian, and Indigenous population and unfairly advantage white people. Like, finally, and lastly, the study found that Americans are dying at faster rates than residents of peer nations. They looked at Denmark, Finland, New Zealand, Norway, and South Korea. So it's an important study, although this is information that you and I know and we talk about all the time. And certainly it's something that I'm fascinated by that because, my reason to EDRA is equity and eliminating inequity. So, I felt like I was a lone voice out in the world talking about this stuff. And after COVID, a very, very small silver lining is that I feel like people are more willing to say these things where in the past that they either didn't feel comfortable to, or they weren't willing to say it.
Yeah. So, the people, well, what examples? You can use the example of the vaccines. just even worldwide. I mean, just access to proper care, which would be a vaccine. The lower resource countries, which happen to have black and brown people, tend to not have the vaccines. They just don't. It's just it has its resources. I mean, it's been around for years. This is not none of this is new.
Right. Yeah. No. Yep. Absolutely. And the fact that there is, I think, a national reckoning that's starting. I mean, you can see with the pushback with critical race theory, and the fact that people are starting to pass laws of not teaching critical race theory in schools. So therefore, just kind of teaching lying to our children yet again, because that's what we do wonderful with our children. We can't teach them about sex ed. We can't teach them about the founding of this country. Anything that makes anybody feel uncomfortable, we
except the people that feel
right on the other end. Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
Except the uncomfortable people.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So it's that my professional research has been in this for several years now, and so it's nice to see that this discussion of structural racism that exists in society and how it manifests in health. And of course, this is something that I need to sit down and start writing about again, because that's what I do. Anyway, all right. So a couple more stories before we go to the numbers. This should be no surprise, but here was Dr. Fauci, who says that the Delta COVID-19 is a threat to U.S. response. The novel coronavirus, the Delta virus was first found in India, is the greatest threat to the U.S. effort to eradicate COVID. Transmissibility is unquestionably greater. It's associated with increased disease severity. The Delta variant is globally becoming the dominant version. Fauci said that the authorized vaccines in the U.S., including the Pfizer, because that's all we know, are effective against it. We have the tools, so let's use them and crush the outbreak. The United States is falling short of its goal of 70%. We do know that already. And he expects at least 70% of adults over 27 years old. They had to find a number that was going to get them to what they wanted, right? Look at the ridiculous of this right here. He expects 70% of adults over 27 will have.
We got there.
They were like, you could just
they've had at least one shot.
Right. You could tell they were like playing with they had a graph or something, and they were like, move it over. Oh, 70%. Okay, who are the 70%? They'd be like, adults over 27 who had one shot. Perfect. We'll take it. Right.
Yeah.
But I think we know this is happening, and I did have a story about COVAX. I wish that we had time to talk about it. I do have a quick story here, and this kind of goes back. I wish I had actually clustered these stories a little bit better. Just real quickly, this was a study about how stress from homophobia affects the mind and body of LGBT people, and this goes back to, again, how structural discrimination can affect not only minorities and communities of color, but also sexual minorities as well. And I always am very optimistic about what I can present versus what I can't present as well. Here are 9 popular COVID-19 vaccine myths. We just don't have time to do it. But all right, what we do have time is just to go over these stories real quickly. The Delta variant continues to turn back the clock. Moscow had a record 144 deaths in 24 hours yesterday. Germany declared Portugal a virus variant zone. Jeez. Banning most arrivals from that country, and is trying to ban British travelers from all EU countries, regardless of their vaccination status.
What?
Greece warns strict local lockdowns may be needed over the summer in some areas. Indonesia recorded a new high in daily cases, and similar spikes in Thailand and Malaysia. Sydney, Australia began a 2-week lockdown. New Zealand suspended its quarantine-free travel corridor with Australia, and Israel has reimposed mask requirements in enclosed public spaces. And in Africa, where vaccinations have been minimal, cases have jumped to 25% over the last week. How's that for a global summary, dude? That is,
Man, like you could have just done that one slide for the first 45 minutes. Like that article,
right?
like wow.
That's a lot of stuff that's going on, man. I mean, I love that Germany is trying to ban the
What?
Britain, because Britain is no longer part of the EU. They're like,
wow.
They're like, no, you can come in.
That's nuts. Wow.
Yeah, it was a crazy. It's a crazy paragraph, right? I mean, all right. As we continue on, how can the U.S. get its vaccinations number up now that they've stalled out? The White House thinks it's something called movable middle. The people who are unvaccinated but still might be able to be convinced, and they're using political campaign tactics to identify, reach, and win over those people. I have one word for them: NoiseFilter animations. I think so. Right. What the White House won't do is promise we'll ever know for sure the real origin of the pandemic that killed 3.9 million people. They say the review may not produce a definitive explanation, although knowing the origin is critical to avoiding or preparing for future such catastrophes. Governments and media and science organizations could leave us with no answers at all. What's your take on that we're not going to eventually have an answer on that?
I think there will be an answer. I don't think they will ever know it. It might not be public, but I think doubling down on whatever precautions that we do know can prevent. I mean, it's at this point the cat's way out of the bag. I mean, we need to find out the origin. But yeah.
Meow.
Yeah.
No, I 100% agree with you. I actually am leaning that it's more likely than not that it may have leaked out of the lab.
Yeah, and nobody wants to admit that they goofed. Let me tell you, folks, things like that happen. I can tell you my first foray with medicine was in high school when I started. I was my 9th, 10th grade year. I decided I wanted to go to medicine. Bowman Grade School of Medicine paired me up in this lab, and we were doing work with vincristine and vinblastin. They were mammary breast cancer cells of rats, and we were testing vincristine and vinblastin. This is my first or second day. I did not realize that I left on a Friday and thought I had closed the incubator, and I didn't. It was open, and I destroyed like 6 months worth of work. That's I guess that was my first. Was it over weekend or the next day? It was within our first days in this program, and I got reprimanded. Didn't think I wanted to go into medicine. It was real supportive, but things like that happen. Checking, and when you're dealing with a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, we're not talking about this is by no means that, but I'm saying in the scientific method, there's a lot of room for error, and nobody wants to admit it, but I just owned up to it. I'm like, nah, that was me.
Did you get fired?
No, it was one of the worst summers of my life, though. They hazed me. They beat me down for like the next 4 or 6 weeks. But it was good, though, because it made me really – they wanted to make sure that I was more careful. I mean, I developed a rash. It was bad. It was bad.
Yes. The other thing, too, is lab leaks happen. We know of multiple examples of lab leaks. Former the Soviet Union, China, here in the U.S. So lab leaks are possible. I think that just like anything else, that it may have been the cover-up that may have been more than anything else. We do have limited time here. Eric, I do want to show you an article that showed up in the New York Times. Like many states in the South, Louisiana vaccination rate has lagged significantly behind the national average, particularly among older individuals. A trend that's troubled public health officials. Some 22 adults, 65 and older, still have not been vaccinated, which is incredible. Just 34% of the state's population has been fully vaccinated, compared with 46% nationally. So Louisiana is one of the latest states to resort to dangling financial incentives to get more shots in arms, a strategy that has kindled a broader debate over the effectiveness and wisdom of monetary enticements. It's holding a lottery, which will be paid for with federal coronavirus relief funds. That's so funny. At the lottery's unveiling last week, a jazz band played the state song, "You Are My Sunshine," and Louisiana's Governor John Bel Edwards revealed a giant check for $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Edwards said amid the festivities that the money would go to a Louisiana adult who's at least received one dose of COVID-19. He's going to give away a total 2.3. It's marketed, obviously, as a shot at $1 million. Before launching our program, we want to see how well it works in other states, and frankly, we were impressed by the success. The reality of the situation is that it's actually not been successful, so that's something I want to talk about in a second. So Louisiana's vaccination rate, as its share of the population, is lower than every state but Mississippi. I hate to say the, well, at least we're not Mississippi joke, right? But it's always a setup, right? 65. Go ahead.
I just think I think it's noble efforts. Like we have to try everything we can, but I think as we've talked about before, you're hitting the people, you're hitting the principled people now, like on principle. It's like when you're dealing, and I'm not equating anyone to this, so I want to be careful the way that I say it. But when you're dealing with a kid that says, "I'm not," go out, "I'm not," and there's nothing you can do about it. Like,
right.
I'm just not. I'll deal with the consequences of it. I'm not going to do it. You have to back away and let them come into it on their own. I can honestly say successfully, I've had at least 2 people that fought me tooth and nail in the last week and a half get a shot because they said, "Dude, you're just not giving up." And I was just they're watching everything that you and I are doing on the different platforms and listening to us talk. And he was like, "Man, you'd be proud of me. I got my shot." I'm like, "Why'd you do it?" "It's because of you." And they called me a colorful word, but yeah. Yeah. Just got to stay the course and do what we can,
Absolutely. All right, we've got 8 minutes. So 182 million people, almost 4 million people globally died. New cases, 316,528, with the deaths, 6,288. These are some of the lowest numbers we've ever seen. And you can see here that there has been a decrease, but it's almost like we can't get below a certain level, right? It's pretty remarkable. And it does look like there is this increase upward. It says here that Brazil has surpassed. Go ahead.
Can you point out the fact, can you go back to April, May, June?
You mean like right here?
When it first started, like I'm saying, remember when we were freaking out back this time last year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And our numbers were here. And we were freaking all the way out. And then if you go to June, July, and then if you go to, I don't know why everybody's so comfortable right now.
It's such a good point. We were freaking out over here, right?
And the numbers are higher. What the deuce, man?
It just goes to show we don't know what this is going to look like later.
Right.
Brazil's. Go ahead. No, I was saying here Brazil surpassed 500,000 COVID deaths. So the number 2 country in the world. COVID surge across Africa is particularly worrisome. That's probably the Delta virus as well. And now a growing number of countries are actually encouraging people to get 2 different vaccines. We missed that in the rundown, but there was a story in the rundown that I had to skip looking at folks that appear to get a really positive boost out of getting like a Johnson & Johnson or an AstraZeneca, an mRNA vaccine as well. Excuse me. So that's something to that is we will start seeing more of this notion of what happened to Doc Riggs. This notion of possibly mixing vaccines. You can see mortality has gone down. Hotspots across the world. Colombia really has taken a massive hit. So Salud. So is Mongolia. And here you can start to see here this.
Is that purple, black, white?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really bad, huh? Yeah.
Have we seen that color?
Have we seen what's that?
Have we seen that color before?
Yeah, no, it's pretty dark, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah. And here we can see Tunisia lighting up. So these countries are all starting to really light up. Down here in South Africa as well, of course, with their own variants as well. And then moving to the U.S., 34,500, 467 cases. Number of deaths, 6,019, 496,000. 6,068 cases with 102 deaths. We've not seen something like this in such a long time. It's so nice to see those numbers, to be dropping the way they are. Here. It's really, really quite impressive. And I mean, these are some insane numbers. I mean, I can understand why people are outside doing what they do. I mean, like we were here just a while ago.
Were there not the existence of these Delta variants, I would feel amazing.
Right.
And that, and we're not talking. We haven't talked about Gamma yet. We're just watching, right?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And then you see relatively few cases being detected, but rural and urban centers, but rural hotspots have emerged in parts of Missouri and Arkansas. And that's what we're going to see. It's going to start picking out people who are the least vaccinated. Here's Louisiana. We're a little bit more vaccinated, Mississippi and Alabama, but still not nearly enough. And as you guys heard, we're the second to last state in the nation in terms of vaccination rate. So we could definitely do a lot better.
Wow, I didn't know. I actually didn't know we were the second to last.
Yeah, that was next to Mississippi.
That came out when?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah. I think yesterday. So anyway, real quickly, Louisiana, 480,463 deaths, 10,728. No information they're going to provide us, but you can see we've reached a new plateau as well. In terms of number of new cases, we're going down. Infection rate, more or less the same. Test positivity rate, more or less the same. And we've inched up from 37.7% to 37.9% of vaccination. So that means they grabbed like 10 people and vaccinated them, which is fine. And so in terms of Orleans Parish, we are at 3.2 to 3.7 daily new cases. Infection rate has gone down. Test positivity has more or less stayed the same. And vaccination rates have more or less stayed the same as well. So that is what we have for you with just a minute or two to spare. Any final thoughts, Stockbreakers? I think that, like you said, we're in a space that's somewhat precarious right now, but I think that with some time, we're going to know what these variants are going to be doing. I think that we know there's going to be more and more of them coming down the line. So it's just a matter of time for us to be able to better understand. And eventually we just need to be prepared for the ones that are going to be evading vaccines.
Yeah. So if you haven't, well, no, there's no one watching us right now that has not gotten the shot. So I'm not even going to say shut up and take the shot. Tell someone to shut up and take the shot. Yeah, do that.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be here on Wednesday. Again, we're trying to focus a little bit more on general medicine and things that are interesting to us, while also kind of keeping an eye on what's happening with COVID as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please watch our videos, our animations. I sent a link there. Please help to get the word out by spreading them on the social medias. We appreciate it.
Can you put the website, our cool website, in the chat?
Oh yeah, we do have a new website, which is NoiseFilterShow.com. That's also our website as well. If you can help kind of promote the animations on your social medias, we appreciate it as well. We love you guys. Health is a human right. Get checked, get fit,
get moving, get vaccinated. Wash your hands, please.
And everybody, peace out.